Alright everybody, how we doing today? Fresh out of the shower, ready to talk about important stuff. So, Mueller's testimony, or Mueller's testimony, was a major anticlimax. Will Democrats finally realize he won't save them? This is from Ruptly, or RT. Democrats expected Russiagate fireworks from former special counsel Robert Mueller's long-awaited testimony on Capitol Hill. But we're once again disappointed witnessing only the last fizzles of a dying conspiracy theory. Many in the media had massively hyped Mueller's appearance, believing that his confident and clear testimony would make for must-watch television. Yet when the Messiah finally appeared, he struggled to answer questions constantly, asked committee members to repeat themselves, and bumbled through the answers he did give, which were not particularly interesting and shed little new light on the Russiagate debacle. This is a Twitter from someone named Molly, MZ Hemingway. Might be a distant relative of mine. Representative Ratcliffe asks Mueller if DOJ has any policy at all that allows an official to say an American who is not charged is not exonerated, and whether anyone other than Donald Trump has been so tarred. Mueller is unable to name a policy or think of such an example. Again, I will say, Representative Ratcliffe asks Mueller if DOJ has any policy at all that allows an official to say an American who is not charged is not exonerated, and whether anyone other than Donald Trump has been so tarred. Mueller is unable to name a policy or think of such an example. If you ask me, Trump derangement syndrome is a very real condition. People can suffer from temporary derangement all the time. It's like those old cartoons where you see, a bull sees a red blanket and then it makes him go nuts, or something like that. Sometimes certain stimuli cause us to temporarily act out on feelings that we don't normally express. It's a thing that happens. Psychologists have seen it. Even professionals in the field think Trump derangement syndrome might be a thing. That's why they wanted so badly for the Mueller report to give them exactly what they wanted. It's also partly what I said all along. Democratic butthurt. Oh, we lost the election. Let's get him out of there as soon as possible. Yeah, well, you know what? Cut it out. You lost. So what? Big deal. Grow up, you big baby. Anyway, watching the hearing was like watching paint dry. I agree. On a wall you've painted 100 times before, Democrats must finally be realizing that Mueller will never reveal himself to be the Trump-slaying Superman they'd hoped for. Better things to do? It's outside my purview. I can't get into it. I refer again to the report. Those were Robert Mueller's go-to answers throughout Wednesday hearing, during which it was absolutely clear that he had no interest in being there. Yeah, his facial expressions expressed that too, quite clearly. Mueller appeared tired and groggy and showed little enthusiasm for answering a barrage of questions from the House Judiciary Committee, not for entertaining any of the elaborate grandstanding coming from both sides of the aisle, of course. His reluctance was no surprise. The investigator had previously admitted he did not want to testify and believed that his 450-page report should have been regarded as his only testimony. More tweets. This one from Anna Masoglia. It's outside my purview is going to be my new default response whenever I don't want to talk about something. And another tweet from Matt Ford. Mueller is answering these questions as a very cautious 74-year-old lawyer who doesn't do TV interviews, which is not a good fit for 5-minute rapid-fire rounds. Also agree. If you ask me, his overall temperament and body language indicated genuine discomfort. I've been watching a lot of body language videos. I've been learning a lot. I've even read a couple e-books on it. And everything about Robert Mueller's body language does not say that he's lying. It says quite the opposite. He's being very honest. However, he's displaying clear discomfort which could indicate either having to do something he just doesn't want to do, or alternatively, possibly even some measure of coercion. Which at this point, considering the fact that the Democrats are willing to hit below the belt, and hell, some of them are even proud of it, I wouldn't put it past them to put a little pressure on Mueller to get him to testify. To pressure him into it, which is why he would display, discomfort. No collusion deja vu. In his opening statement, Mueller confirmed yet again that his extensive investigation, completed over 2 years, did not establish that members of the 2016 Trump campaign conspired with Russia to steal the presidential election. I do not intend to summarize or describe the results of our work in a different way in the course of my testimony today, he said. It was a warning to Democrats in particular, perhaps Mueller's way of encouraging them to abandon any lingering hope that he would suddenly rip into Trump in some newly dramatic fashion, calling for his impeachment for high crimes and misdemeanors. Mueller also confirmed once and for all that he was not curtailed or hindered in his investigation by Trump, and was essentially allowed to conduct it as he saw fit. Another ouch moment for Democrats. If you want my opinion on this whole thing, right here, right now, I'll tell you, plain and simple. Did the Russians interfere in the 2016 election? Yes. Yes, they did. Did Trump collude with those interfering with the American election? No. No, he did not. And what was exactly the extent of the interference? Well, I would say that the extent was somewhere between what Putin tried to say it was, which was just like a lone blogger, and what the Democrats are suggesting. It's somewhere in between. Like maybe Russian agents with a good American accent swaying people to vote one way or the other. But don't assume malintent. It was obvious that Russia had to benefit from a relationship with Trump, especially since he was someone who wanted to keep good relations with Russia, versus the warmongering Hillary Clinton, who would have killed relations with Russia dead. Dead. Smashed it with a hammer, shot it with a gun, blew it up with a grenade. Because she's about as subtle as a fist to the nose. Anyway, not charged but not exonerated. Pleasing to Democrats, however, will have been Mueller's straightforward answer when asked if Trump was correct in this characterization of the results of the report as a total exoneration. No, Mueller quickly responded, yet here again there is no new information. Everyone already knew that Mueller had refused to make any determination on the question of obstruction of justice, and the process had not exonerated Trump fully in this regard. Tweet from Aaron Mate. Mueller and Nadler seem to have forgotten again that it's not a prosecutor's job to exonerate. All the more so if potential crime is obstructing a probe where there's no underlying crime. It's a prosecutor's job to determine whether there's chargeable conduct. And Mueller could not deliver that. That's not part of the tweet, that's my addition. Molly. Representative Ratcliffe asks Mueller if DOJ has any policy at all that allows an official... Oh yeah, that's the same tweet from earlier. Anyway, the issue of Trump's claimed exoneration became one of the more interesting moments of an otherwise dull hearing. When Texas Republican John Ratcliffe asked Mueller if the U.S. Department of Justice had any policy that allows him to say that a person who is not charged is also not exonerated. When asked if he could think of an example besides Trump where an investigated person was not exonerated because their innocence was not conclusively determined, Mueller could not think of any, saying this was a unique situation. Indeed, because the investigation was probably forced, which is what would cause it to be so unique. Forgetful Mueller. It wasn't simply that Mueller was seemingly disinterested in the whole charade. The stranger discovery of the day was that on many occasions during questioning, he appeared to have trouble recalling some basic facts from his own report. Granted, the entire report is hundreds of pages long, no one could be expected to recall it in crystal clear detail, except for maybe a fucking computer. But Mueller's grasp of certain elements left a lot to be desired. Michael Tracy. Mueller can't recall, this is a tweet, Mueller can't recall who provided one of the most salacious quotes in the report in which Trump purportedly exclaims, I'm effed. It was Jody Hunt Sessions, Chief of Staff. Isn't that something you'd remember? Did he prepare at all for this hearing? I'm going to try to cut down on the swearing. I haven't been deranked yet, but if I want to get a little further, I'll do it a little less. On one occasion, he was unable to recall who'd provided one of the most reported on and dramatic quotes in its pages. Trump's alleged response to Mueller's own appointment, "This is the end of my presidency. I'm effed." It wasn't just report-specific facts that Mueller failed to recall, either. He couldn't even remember when asked which president had first appointed him to the position of U.S. Attorney General. It's only a matter of time before Trump starts calling him Sleepy Robert on Twitter. Tweet from Matt Taibbi. Mueller could not remember which president appointed him to first U.S. Attorney position. Collusion or conspiracy? So shaky was he on some of the details, committee members inadvertently caught Mueller contradicting pieces of the report in his spoken testimony. Asked by Georgia Republican Doug Collins if collusion and conspiracy are synonymous terms in the colloquial context, Mueller said no. Yet in this report, as Collins swiftly pointed out, he stated that even as defined in legal dictionaries, collusion is largely synonymous with conspiracy. Another tweet from Aaron Mate. That was awkward. Collins just got Mueller to contradict his own testimony 30 minutes in after initially saying no. Mueller acknowledged what his report said, that collusion is largely synonymous with conspiracy. The crime Mueller investigating cleared Trump camp on. There were some leading questions in the testimony. I saw quite a bit of it. There were some leading questions from the Democrats. They were trying to get what they wanted, some of them were. But there were also quite a few Republicans there as well, who are being more fair to Mueller. Anyway, rebuffing Democrats' efforts. It was back to the question of obstruction of justice when Democrat Hakeem Jeffries of New York began questioning Mueller, pushing him to agree that Trump had committed obstruction on Twitter. Many excitedly claimed that Jeffries was masterfully establishing that the three elements of an obstruction of justice charge were present. But he failed spectacularly when Mueller ultimately responded, "I'm not supportive of that analytical charge." Yeah, Hakeem Jeffries was one of the Democrats using those leading questions, which admittedly is not a violation per se, but it is a pretty dirty tactic. It's barely within what would be considered legitimate. It's fundamentally dishonest in a way. But it does force the person you're speaking to be consistent, because it's a good way to catch them if they're not. So, impeachment-favoring Democrats did their best to force Mueller into agreeing with their personal characterizations of his report, but he repeatedly rebuffed their valiant efforts. Their ultimate goal was to nudge him into saying something which could be construed as his support for impeachment proceedings. But no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't get him there. To steal the analysis of NBC's Chuck Todd for Democrats, on optics, this was a disaster. Yes, it was. Because aside from it being about as interesting as watching paint dry, or watching a snail crawl along the floor, their rather poking and prodding was pretty obvious. They were not very kind to Mueller in this testimony. They were clearly trying to maneuver him into several verbal traps to try and get him to slip up and give them what they wanted. Unfortunately, what they wanted wasn't there, so he didn't have it to give. They're desperate. They're very, very desperate, and it's becoming clearer and clearer by the day. And to all those liberal celebrities who are all about the Mueller is coming, Mueller is coming. Yeah, Mueller was coming. Mueller came. And Mueller went. He just didn't go where he wanted him to. In conclusion, it is as I believe it is as I've said. Did Trump collude with Russia? No. Did Russia interfere in the election? Yes. Russia more than likely was simply trying to sway voters one direction or the other. Probably in the direction of Trump. But I can't really clarify any further than that because I don't have that information. I cannot present to you a negative. Just like how Mueller could not present a negative. because there was no collusion. So those of you who were against this, who said there were no collusion, now you can shout it proudly from the rooftops. There was no collusion. Anyway...